I told myself being in the front row was a favor, not a vow. Then the work lights died, the stage lights bloomed, and Alexander forgot how to breathe again. His hand hovered at his sternum, a panic prayer, and the theater, rows and rows of strangers, tilted toward him like weather about to break. I stood without meaning to. A crew member hissed, "Sit down." Roth lifted a hand, stopped the music, and then Alexander spoke my name into all that silence. "Marcus," he said, not a question, not a plea, an instruction. Every head turned. I became the room he needed. It was a working rehearsal, half the house lit so donors could be charmed between scenes. The stage smelled like dust and burnt gel. I found the front row because Roth had left a folded program with my name on it, an arrow scrawled, "Sit here." Alexander warmed up in the wings, every tendon taut as violin string. He didn't look at me until the first cue landed. When he did, it was brief, like cracking a window, enough air to keep a candle alive. Ashes is all muscle and memory. The story moves like grief, sudden, looping, refusing to proceed in polite lines. Alexander slid into the choreography with that private weather I'd seen in Studio C. He was beautiful, and then, in the space between an inhale and an exhale, he was terrified. His palm flattened against his chest. The lines of the piece crowded him, smoke haze, a projected orange flicker on scrim, and I could feel the cement trying to pour into his lungs. "Hold," Roth called, voice a dry clap. Alexander didn't move. The room hung by a thread. Something in me stepped forward before my feet did. I lifted my hand to my own sternum, 2 fingers tapping the spot he'd placed me, then opened my palm. He found it like a lighthouse. We breathed together, 4 in, 4 hold, 6 out, across the gulf of orchestra pit and donor's pearls and the ancient dust of the house. Color came back to his face, his shoulders lowered a fraction. "Again from the drop," Roth said, softer, like not to startle a deer. They restarted. Alexander kept me in his peripheral vision as if I were a mark spiked in tape. When the solo returned, the one he'd stumbled in, he didn't. He poured himself into it, a body rewriting fear, into fluency. By the time the scene ended, the donors were whispering the way people do when reverence ambushes them mid-martini. On the 10-minute break, he didn't head for water or notes. He beelined. We met in the aisle between rows G and H, where the armrests are permanently gouged by wedding rings and impatience. Up close, sweat had pasted a curl to his temple again. He was vibrating like a bell that had been struck and hadn't finished singing. "I heard myself say your name," he said, half laugh, half confession. "God." "You did," I said. I wanted to touch his wrist where he'd drawn the M, to check if it buzzed under my fingers, too. He leaned back against a seat and closed his eyes. "Ashes isn't just a title to me," he said. "We had an apartment with a fire escape that didn't believe in its own job. I was 11. It was mostly smoke, and the alarms were all bravado. Nobody died. But for a year after, I smelled phantom burning when the toaster hiccuped. First time we ran this piece with Hayes, I was 22, and I almost threw up behind a Marley curtain." He opened his eyes, wry. "And then I became the poster boy. Funny. It's not funny," I said, and the anger in it surprised me. "At the building? The donors? The world that asks for a body and ignores the cost? But you're allowed to be more than one thing." "I don't know how to be more than one thing in front of people," he said quietly. Then he looked at me, like I was a loophole. "Except with you." A shadow fell across us. The stage manager, headset askew. 5 minutes. We're picking up at the Pas de Deux. Marcus, right?" I nodded. She lowered her voice. "If you're going to be the anchor," she said, like trying on the word, "plant yourself stage left for the next section. He spots better there." We moved, shoulder to shoulder along the aisle, the air between us its own electricity. At the wing, the lights turned the dust to glitter. He caught my hand at the curtain, fast, then let it go before it could mean too much to anyone watching. "Don't disappear," he said. "I won't." He stepped into the glow. I stayed in the shadow and did the smallest, bravest thing I've ever done. I breathed so he could see me breathing, and I waited for him to come back. I thought I knew what staying would require, breathing on cue, sitting in the dark, being a lighthouse with legs. Then the theater swallowed its own power, alarms hiccuped, and Alexander's fear came roaring back like an old storm that remembered our names. He found me in the strobe, fingers a bright, shaking question, and I had to answer in the simplest language our bodies knew. Here, here, here. It was not the kiss that shocked me, though that happened too. It was the certainty that followed, fierce as a vow made to smoke and rain. I was not leaving. Not ever. We didn't lose him that run. We lost the lights. One moment, cues snapping, clean as chalk lines. The next, a cough from the grid, a shudder through the rigging, then strobe and siren, haze tripping an ancient alarm, emergency beacons chewing the dark into slices. Hold. Everyone stay put, the stage manager barked, already on the headset, already 3 steps ahead. Donors squeaked and clutched pearls like props they hadn't rehearsed with. Company bodies clustered in obedient shadows. I stood at stage left, visible enough to be a point, invisible enough not to be a problem until I wasn't. Marcus. Roth's voice from the house, sharp and certain. Backstage, now! I didn't wait to be told twice. The wing swallowed me. Ropes, sandbags, the metallic smell of panic. The strobe made a stuttering snowfall of dust. I found him by the fly, rail, one palm at his sternum, the other gripping air. Even in the chaos, he searched for me like muscle memory. I put my hand where his was, covering heat with heat. 4 in, I said, loud enough to thread the siren. Hold, 6 out, stay with me. He obeyed like it was choreography we'd written together. The strobe dazzled tears into his lashes, but his breath answered mine, shaky at first, then sinking. He leaned his forehead to mine for one bare second, as if to plug himself back into the world. The siren hiccuped, regrouped, screamed on. Stage door, I said. Cold air. He nodded. We moved as one, a slick path through tape marks and flight cases, hands not quite clasped, still touching. Outside, the night was wet and honest. Rain slicked the alley and turned the stage door light into a soft halo. The siren dulled to a distant complaint. Alexander pressed his back to the brick and closed his eyes. The rain spooled down his throat, over the open V of his shirt. The M he'd drawn on my wrist had blurred to a watercolor. I hate this part, he said, voice, paper thin and furious. The way fear takes the wheel like it paid for the car. You're allowed to hate it, I said, keeping my palm against his chest, feeling the gallop learning to walk again. You're allowed to need. His laugh broke. I keep thinking I'm using you. Then use me, I said, surprising myself. Or, better word, choose me. His eyes opened. Lightning had nothing on them. For a suspended moment, the rain, the siren, the whole messy orchestra of the city stood back to watch. Marcus, he said, my name a question and an answer. Both. If I step toward you, I don't know how to be your friend like before. Maybe we don't have to be like before, I said. Maybe we can be after. He stepped. I didn't move away. It was simple, our first kiss. Not a trophy, not a firework, just the meeting of 2 brave mouthfuls of air. He cupped my jaw as if asking permission each second he had it. I nodded into him. We breathed, and this time not, because the siren told us to. When we parted, we both laughed helplessly, the way you laugh after surviving something that wanted to claim you. We should... He started, and the rest of the sentence got lost, because the stage manager shouldered. Through the door, headset skewed, rain jeweling her cheeks. She clocked us, not the kiss exactly, but the closeness, the hands that had not yet remembered how to separate. Grids resetting, she said, voice soft because our faces had told her what volume to use. 10 minutes. We'll skip haze. For now. You good? Alexander looked at me before he looked at her. I'm good, he said, and it sounded like a promise. She nodded and disappeared, leaving the door hissing rain. He let his head fall to my shoulder. "I want this," he said, almost a whisper. "I want you." But Friday, opening, press in the house. If they smell a story, they'll turn you into a crutch with a name. They'll make you the reason I can or can't. I pressed my mouth to his temple, the only kiss I was sure wouldn't make anything harder. "We don't owe them a shape for us," I said. "We can be quiet until after." "Quiet, but keep it," he said, echoing Roth without meaning to, smiling like a secret he finally liked the weight of. We went back in, shoulders brushing. The siren had been tamed. The work lights were a dim sunrise. He met the stage like a man who'd found his shoreline. After, when I was home and the river gnawed at the city's edges in the dark, my phone lit up. Unknown number, 1 image, 2 silhouettes under the stage door light, bodies close, rain making halos. No caption, just us, caught mid-beginning. My breath stuttered, not 4 in, not 6 out, something else entirely. The image arrived like a dare. 2 silhouettes under a stage door light, rain turning us to halos. No caption. Unknown number. My name in the corner of the screen like proof. I told myself it could be anything. Someone's art, an accident, until... The follow-up. Careful who sees. It wasn't a threat, exactly. It was a trap laid with polite words. In my head, I heard Alexander say, "Stay," and realized staying might mean staying visible. What would I hold up if the world threw questions? My body or my heart? The lock screen pulsed again. "Are you awake?" he texted. "Always," I sent back. He called, the word Marcus shaking a little at the edges. I sent the photo, the silence on his end had teeth. "It's not explicit," he said finally. "It's us, and they know it's us. Only if they want it to be," I said, and immediately hated the cowardice in it. "We can go quiet. Block. Wait." He exhaled, a trembling laugh. "Secrets rot fast under theater bulbs. Come over," I said, "or I'll come to you." He chose me. 10 damp minutes later, he was at my door, hair wet, shirt zipped, the M he'd drawn over my pulse a luminous blur. He didn't take off his shoes. He pressed his palms to my cheeks like he was memorizing me in case the world tried to edit. "I can be seen with you," he said, daring himself into the sentence. "I don't want you turned into a device, some narrative that lets them pretend. My body isn't mine." "Then we choose the narrative," I said. "We say it beforehand. We decide what belongs to us." As if cued, the unknown number chimed again. "Tomorrow noon," it read. "You'll want to get ahead of this." A link to a local arts blog blinked like a metronome. Draft queued. Blind item. Principal's secret anchor. He read over my shoulder. "Anchor," he murmured, bitter and fond at once. "They'll make it sound like a shame." "Call Roth," I said. "Or I will." We called together. He picked up on the first ring, voice sandpaper and steadiness. "I was expecting this," he said. "Allie has cameras and people with phones. I can hold press off for a morning, maybe 2. If you choose to say something, we shape it. If you don't, I will make anyone who asks regret it." Alexander's breath went ragged and then righted. "I don't want to hide. I just don't want the work to be swallowed." "Then give them the version that feeds the work," Roth said. "Vulnerability as craft, not spectacle. Panic as a thing you manage. With support, not a weakness in the steps. Marcus, you comfortable being named?" I looked at him. He looked at me. Our decisions found each other in the space between. "Yes," I said. It felt like standing at a cliff and discovering a staircase. Roth cleared his throat like he was swallowing something unprofessional and soft. "Come in early. PR will meet. You at 9. We'll write 2 sentences and a boundary." After we hung up, the room exhaled. He sat on my kitchen floor like his bones had finally asked for a break, shoulders pressed to the cabinet, head tipped back. I slid down beside him. We didn't talk for a minute that changed the shape of time. Rain tapped its coat against the window. "I love you." he said quietly, surprisingly calm in the saying. He looked like a man who had found the word and was relieved to stop carrying it alone. No hurdles, no alarms, just, I love you. I laughed, then cried, then kissed him. Small, sure, like a signature at the bottom of a vow. I love you, I said. We'll choose us out loud. My phone buzzed once more, the kind of finality you feel in a closing curtain. New photo. Not a silhouette this time. The alley light had been kind, but someone had stepped closer. The yop angle caught his hand on my jaw, my mouth just a breath from his temple. Consider this a second angle, the text read. Noon. We looked at it. We did not look away. At 9, we traded fear for sentences. At noon, the city tried to decide what we were, and we told it. Work first, love quiet, boundaries bright as tape on a stage. By 8, the house lights fell away, and Alexander's body spoke the language. It had been relearning in secret. Breath, then step, then flame. Somewhere between the solo and the bow, the unknown number lost its power. Somewhere between the curtain and the alley, he took my hand in front of cameras and didn't let go. Suspense, it turned out, was the pause before a yes becomes a life. PR. At 9 looked like a conference room pretending to be kind. Carafe coffee, a box of donuts someone had bitten into hope, a whiteboard with Roth's tiny handwriting. Kira from PR shook our hands like we were both performers. 2 sentences and a boundary, she said, like a spell she'd practiced. Say what you want heard. Draw the line where you want it to stop hurting. Repeat as needed. We wrote, them on the board, then on our phones, then into our bones. Alexander said, I manage stage fright using a breathing protocol and the presence of a trusted friend, Marcus. I'm sharing this because mental health belongs in the light. Please, respect that my personal life is not a story for anyone else to tell. Kira underlined nothing, which made it feel truer. Roth nodded from the doorway like a proud secret. At 11, Alexander posted a black and white photo of his palm over his sternum. No face, just breath. The caption echoed the sentences and named the boundary. I reposted with fewer words. Here. With you. Always. The unknown number vibrated at 11:08. Nice spin, it said. Noon. We did not answer. At 11:40, the arts blog replaced its blind item with a link to Alexander's statement and a line about bravery that wasn't condescending, which surprised me. We went to the stage because nothing answers noise like work. In the wings, he redrew, the M on my wrist, darker this time, then traced it with his thumb until it warmed. Stay, he said, the word now a ritual, not a panic. He placed my hand against his chest for 4 breaths and then let the day carry us. Opening arrived in velvet and electricity. The house was a live animal, all eyes and expectation. Haze was dialed to gentler, the flames to suggestion. From the front row, stage left, I became the same small lighthouse I had been, only more seen. When the solo approached, I watched fear, arrive like weather, and I watched him meet it, name it, allow it to pass. He spotted me, then the wing, then sky. 4 in, hold, 6 out. The steps became sentences. The sentences became meaning. When the final tableau melted into blackout, the silence held for 1 heartbeat more before the house roared. During bows, he stepped forward alone, then beckoned the company, then surprised us all by pressing 2 fingers to his sternum and lifting that hand toward the shadow where I stood. Not an announcement, not a headline, just a thank you in the language we'd built. Roth covered his face and pretended it was sweat. The alley sang with cameras. We walked out into it together because hiding is its own spectacle. Kira ghosted. At our shoulders, boundary loaded and ready. Microphones appeared like mushrooms after rain. Alexander, your anchor, a voice tried. He held up a polite palm. You've got my statement, he said, calm, gracious, unyielding. Tonight belongs to the work and to the people who made it. A man near the back lowered his phone, the silhouette from the photo. Younger than I expected, nervous, pants too short. He met my eyes, flinched, and looked away. I felt a flare of something sharp, then watched it choose to soften. Kira clocked him and watched him too, not predatory, just aware. The crowd thinned when it realized we weren't going to bleed for it. Later, on my couch, shoes kicked off at last. He tucked, his feet under my thigh, and leaned back with the relief of a building when scaffolding comes down. The city purred its low animal song outside. He turned my wrist over, thumb on the M, and smiled like a man who had made it across a night sea. "What now?" he asked, not afraid, more curious. "Now," I said, "we practice staying when it's easy." He laughed softly. "Stay," he said, testing the word one more time, and I did, not as lighthouse, not as shield, but as a person who had chosen the storm and the morning after, both. I opened the studio door expecting dusty silence, not Alexander. The light found him first. A bare calf, a shirt half-buttoned, breath shivering, music still hanging like a held apology. He spun, eyes wide, shame and something braver warring in the amber. I should have said sorry. I should have backed out. Instead, he said, "Stay." One soft word with teeth. It caught in me, hooked something restless. A moment later, he offered me his secret, palms up, vulnerable as a flame, and with my name in his mouth, the room suddenly changed shape, and so did every future I'd imagined. I wasn't meant to be at the art center that night. Alexander, had texted that rehearsal would run late, and I'd promised to swing by with the charger he'd left coiled on my kitchen counter. Rain came early, heavy on the cold river, and the lobby guard waved me through with the kind of pity reserved for damp dogs and devoted friends. We aren't quite the thing I wish we were. For 3 years we've been coffee, early runs, emergency grocery trips, the relief of someone answering the odd "I can't sleep" text. Still, I keep a drawer in my chest labeled "Don't ruin this," and I keep my hands in my pockets. Down the corridor, the studios were numbered by metal plates and smudged fingerprints. I stopped at Studio C, where light leaked under the door like a shy confession. Music swelled and cut out, then the soft scuff of a foot, a recovered breath. I knocked, waited enough to call it polite, then turned the handle. He didn't hear me at first. The mirror held Alexander in duplicate, shirt half-buttoned, throat shining with sweat, a curl stuck stubbornly to his temple. He moved as if the music still existed in the air, coaxing it forward with the arc of his arms, then catching it in the cradle of his chest. He wasn't the version of himself he offers the world, the jokes, the shoulders, the easy detours around pain. This was a private weather. His eyes found me, wide and startled. Shame flashed, then something braver. I opened my mouth, an apology, already trying to shape itself, but he beat it to the light first. "Stay," he said. Not a plea, not a command. An invitation that knew it could be refused. My chest did its traitor thing. Heat, then a kind of terrifying clarity. I closed the door, behind me, and set the charger on the bench like a peace offering. He rubbed his wrist, palms up, then let the sentence tug me forward. "Stage fright. Not the normal kind, the kind that pours cement in your lungs. I don't tell people. It gets worse when I feel watched. But it's better when it's you." The room tilted. "Because we're friends," I said, which was true and felt like the smallest truth I could choose. "Yes." He exhaled a wry, almost smile. "And because you look at me like you see the person I'm trying to be." He turned the speaker back on, but kept it low, a heartbeat under his breathing. "Will you sit? Just be here. Don't fix anything." It was the easiest and hardest yes I've ever given. I sat cross-legged by the wall and watched him step back into the music. Without the mirror, he used me as his mark. The air changed temperature. He missed a turn, laughed, then pressed a palm to his sternum as if remembering where home lived. He looked at me, really looked, and said, "Marcus," like it was new. The next time he said "stay," it tilted a door somewhere inside me. In the studio light, he wasn't just my friend, he was a nerve I'd pressed by accident. We were supposed to be alone, but the building had other ideas. The handle jolted, the silence snapped. I saw his fear like a bruise in the mirror and tasted my own. I didn't yet know what he would ask of me, a promise that would change how I entered every room after, or that the first time I touched him, on purpose, it would feel like an answer I'd been carrying. The door handle jerked. My stomach did the same. Alexander froze mid-breath, sweat catching light along his throat. The sound came again, metal on metal, an impatient rattle, then a muffled voice too far to make out. He moved his finger to his lips and the room contracted until it was only our breathing, rough in the quiet. I could hear the rain like static in the vents. Whoever it was stood there long enough to make the silence ache, then footsteps receded down the corridor. Alexander exhaled like a diver breaking surface and pressed his hands to his knees. "They can't see me like this," he said, voice low and apologetic in the same breath. He paced to the mirror and back. "They expect the version with punchlines and shoulders, the poster boy, not the guy who forgets how to swallow." He laughed without humor and tugged his shirt closed, then left it hanging again when the buttons didn't feel right. "I'm sorry. You didn't sign up for emergency theater." "You don't have to apologize to me," I said, surprising myself with the steadiness in it. "I've been teaching freshmen to breathe before speeches for 6 years. It translates." I tried a smile. Less glitter, same terror. His eyebrows lifted. "You and your debate kids." "Tell me where it gets stuck," I said. "Show me." He swallowed and took my hand before I could think to be brave. He placed my palm flat over his sternum. Heat. The pound of him, frantic and honest. "Here," he whispered. "Count with me." We stood that way for a minute that felt like a different kind of time. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 6. His chest rose against my hand, then fell. The part of me that is all logic and protective walls took a chair in the corner and watched us without comment. When his breath steadied, he let his eyes close. "Walk with me," he said, and guided my other hand to his shoulder. We moved a slow figure 8 through the room, a clumsy duet that somehow made perfect sense. His phone buzzed against the bench. He flinched. The name flashing on the cracked screen was Roth. He didn't pick up. We stopped moving, but my palm stayed where he'd put it, as if removing it would undo the truce his body had called. "Evan tore his Achilles," he said to the floor. "I'm up for the principal in Ashes. Friday, 2 days." The words shook. He didn't. Then he lifted his chin, eyes suddenly fierce. "Be there," he said. "Front row at rehearsal. If I can find you, I won't disappear." I nodded, unable to pretend I was anywhere but here. He turned my wrist, drew a small M where my pulse jumped. "Anchor," he murmured. The door swung, open. Light from the hall sliced us in half. Roth stood dripping rain. "Good," he said. "Whatever this is, keep it. Quiet, but keep it." Then he was gone.